starting this deep dive with some immediate breaking news right from the front line. The date is January 13th, 2026. Ukrainian forces have disrupted a Russian assault near Pokrovsk. Reports are confirming that defenders from the 25th Separate Airborne Brigade managed to stop Russian preparations. A really important tactical victory in what is an incredibly dangerous theater. Subscribe to Defense Reports. It's your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex, and I'm here with Aria for our latest deep dive, where we give you a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of what's happening in global defense, military tech, and strategy. Our mission today is to take a whole stack of sources, intel reports, economic data, you name it, and build a clear strategic picture for you.
And that victory near Pokrovsk, it's the perfect way in. Because just under the surface of that headline is a much larger and frankly, much darker strategic picture that's unfolding. We have new data showing Russia has completely shifted its core battlefield doctrine.
Away from the big tank columns.
Exactly. They're moving away from those large, slow, mechanized attacks that were just getting decimated. Now, they're all about these hyper-specific infiltration missions. We're talking small, nimble teams using things like anti-thermal cloaks.
That tactical pivot alone is massive. But the real surprise we have to unpack today, the real core of our investigation, is the cost of all this. Moscow's obsession with its defense industrial base, its DIB, is now creating these severe, measurable price spikes and labor crises back home for the Russian people.
Right. The war on the front is now actively starting to collapse their civilian economy.
And on top of that, we'll get into the technological arms race.
We have to. We'll cover the drone war, including the UK's new Octopus Interceptor drone initiative, which is fascinating, and the very worrying use of new long-range missiles for strategic deterrence. So it's a dense, high-stakes, deep dive. Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's start on the ground, Pokrovsk. For anyone looking at a map, why this town? Why is it the main operational objective in Donetsk right now?
Well, Pokrovsk is a strategic crossroads. If Russia wants to validate its territorial goals in the east, they really have to control it. Our sources are indicating that their forces are attempting a big turning maneuver just south of the town.
Using units like the 15th Motorized Rifle Brigade.
That's right, and the 90th Tank Division. They're using these established mobile units to try and widen their salient, to push out southeast of the area.
So the goal isn't just taking a town, it's about causing a wider collapse, correct? They want to encircle the whole Pokrovsk-Myrnarad pocket, and this is the critical part, sever the Ukrainian ground lines of communication, the GLOCs.
Precisely. Pokrovsk was a major logistics hub up until about mid-2025. If you can degrade those supply lines, you starve the defense. No ammo, no reinforcements. But, the minute you start analyzing the front line near Pokrovsk, you run straight into the fog war. It's almost as hard to navigate as the battlefield itself.
You mentioned before that the collapse around Oshchuraytyn sort of set the stage for this. What did the sources say about that?
That was a huge crisis. The internal reports we've seen were pretty brutal. They squarely blame the leadership of the 115th Separate Mechanized Brigade for just deep organizational and coordination failures. It led to significant losses and a really rapid retreat.
And when command fails that badly, the front line just fractures.
It shatters, and the enemy rushes right in. And that's when it becomes almost impossible for us as analysts to verify who controls what.
You see that tension in the reporting, don't you?
Constantly. You'll have an official Ukrainian statement saying they still control 2/3 of Okeratyn, that the Russians are blocked. But then you look at more pessimistic open source intelligence, OSINT claims, and they suggest the Russians control almost all of Okeratyn in the next village over, Solovyov. So even just pinpointing the front line is a real challenge.
And all this friction, it has a direct human cost. The strain on Russian forces is, well, it's starting to show. We have reports from the Atish partisan movement describing some seriously high levels of demoralization, especially among officers.
And that's the key. It's not just new conscripts. When your officers start looking for the exit, your system is breaking down. We're talking about officers from the 39th Guards Motor Rifle Brigade submitting mass transfer requests just to get out of the Pokrovsk direction.
That's a catastrophic failure of confidence.
It is. It suggests they see the objective as way too costly or maybe even impossible under the current conditions.
So this fighting around Donetsk is really the testing ground for Russia's new doctrine. They had to adapt because the old way, the tank columns, the big troop movements, it just wasn't working.
It was unsustainable. By late 2024, they were facing a technological reality. The Ukrainian wall of drones, these small tactical UAVs, had basically achieved dominance over any large-scale maneuver. You move a tank company, it gets spotted and hit in minutes.
They had to get around that.
They had to. And their solution is this concept: battlefield air interdiction, or BAI.
Let's define that clearly for everyone listening. What exactly is BAI?
Okay, so BAI is basically using air power, and in this war, that's like 95% drones, to hit high-value targets in the near rear. We're not talking about the immediate front line, but that zone maybe 20 kilometers back, the kill zone.
So you're hitting logistics, command posts, reinforcement.
Exactly. It's an air-centric doctrine. You're not trying to seize territory directly. You're trying to isolate the territory that the enemy's trying to hold.
And what are the day-to-day effects of this on Ukrainian defenses?
They're profound. The constant drone threat forces Ukrainian personnel to disperse, really spread out. That makes unit cohesion much, much harder.
Yeah.
And it creates what we call a porous front line. It's not a solid trench line anymore, it's full of gaps.
Gaps the Russians can exploit.
Right. But the most striking detail in our sources was about mobility. Because these drones are targeting any vehicle pickups, trucks, Ukrainian soldiers often have to walk 10 to 15 kilometers just to get to their positions.
Walking that far, under fire, with all your gear, that has to be exhausting. It must severely impact their ability to reinforce or resupply quickly.
It's operational exhaustion by attrition. And this is exactly where Russia's new infiltration tactics come into play. They exploit those gaps.
So how small are these teams and what are they using?
They're tiny, 5 to 10 soldiers max. And their key piece of tech is the anti-thermal imaging cloak. It lets them get close at night without being seen by thermal scopes. And for mobility, they're ditching armor for motorbikes, golf carts, buggies.
Golf carts?
This sounds absurd,
That
right?
hurts, I
But
know.
speed and thermal invisibility, that's their armor now. And this whole thing is enabled by some very advanced drone tech. We're seeing them use mothership UAVs, like Orlan or Molniya variants, that act as a relay and launch multiple smaller FPV drones.
So it's moving beyond just simple line of sight attacks.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The newest FPVs have enhanced resistance to jamming and optical navigation. That means they can keep going and hit their targets even in a communications-denied environment. It's just a constant spiraling technological race.
And as that drone fight rages up close, the long-range missile threat is still being used by Russia for a very clear strategic messaging, aimed squarely at the West.
What's really fascinating here is how openly they're linking a strike to a political threat. We have visual confirmation that an Oreshnik intermediate-range ballistic missile, an IRBM, hit a defense industrial site deep inside Ukraine in Lviv city around January 8th. This was a demonstration.
And the diplomatic messaging followed immediately.
It was so explicit. Russian officials, Dmitry Medvedev included, immediately pointed to the Oreshnik strike as a way to deter Western states from sending any troops to post-war Ukraine. The message couldn't be clearer. Our new deep strike weapons can reach you.
And we also have mentioned their use of treaty-violating systems. Our sources confirm Russia has been hitting Ukraine since August 2025 with a nuclear-capable 9M729 Novator cruise missile.
That weapon is a clear violation of the old INF treaty. Deploying it shows a willingness to use systems that were previously restricted, which really escalates the level of strategic threat.
So the big question is, how do Ukraine and its allies counter this? The sheer volume of drones and missiles. This brings us to some of the key counter-innovations.
And this is where efficiency is everything. The UK is starting production of the Ukrainian-designed Octopus interceptor drone. It's specifically made to take down those Russian Shahed drones. And the economic logic here could be a total game changer.
What's the cost breakdown?
The goal is thousands of these per month, and the cost of each Octopus interceptor will be less than 10% of a single Russian Shahed.
That's the only way you can win an attrition war in the air, right? If your intercept costs a fraction of the threat, you have the long-term industrial advantage.
You do. And you have to keep innovating, because the Russians are adapting the Shaheds constantly. They're adding cameras, thermobaric warheads, even having them drop anti-tank mines when they crash.
So how does the Octopus avoid becoming obsolete in a month?
They're building in a rapid design update cycle. The plan is to update the Octopus design every 6 weeks. That speed is crucial to stay ahead.
And looking at the bigger picture, Europe is making some massive commitments. The UK allocated nearly £2 billion to build up its Storm Shadow stockpiles.
Right, and there's some ambiguity around the Storm Shadow and SCALP production. We're not sure if it's all new missiles or an upgrade program or using old French stock. But we do know the production line for SCALP is active because of a Greek order. So the machinery is running.
But if you want to see the single biggest strategic commitment to future deterrence, you have to look at Poland.
Absolutely. Poland's order for 486 HIMARS-type launchers is it's staggering. To put that in context for you, that's not just an upgrade. It's a national commitment to having high-mass fires. It's the ability to rapidly eliminate enemy air defenses. A number like that fundamentally changes the strategic math for the entire eastern flank of NATO.
Okay, let's pivot now. Let's talk about the internal causes of this war. Our sources are suggesting things are starting to reach a critical point inside Russia. The civilian economy is really showing some serious stress fractures.
The focus on the Defense Industrial Base, the DIB, is completely dominating their economy. The first Deputy Prime Minister, Denis Banturov, reported a 23% growth in manufacturing investment in 2025. It's all military contracts.
And they've staffed up massively.
They've added 800,000 workers in 3 years. The DIB now employs 3.8 million people. On paper, that sounds like a boom. But it's creating a giant structural hole in the civilian economy.
A wage war, basically.
That's precisely right. The subsidized defense sector can pay more, so they're pulling all the skilled labor. This is creating severe labor shortages everywhere else. And that's fueling inflation and causing these huge price spikes for the average Russian who doesn't work in a tank factory. We're now seeing civilian manufacturers being forced into 4-day work weeks, even layoffs, because they can't compete.
And the knock-on effects are brutal, like in the housing market.
Distortion is extreme. Commercial housing rates in Russia are now estimated at 20% or even higher. I mean, can you imagine? Most people are facing astronomical borrowing costs just to find a place to live.
And instead of the state absorbing this, they're just passing the cost on to the people through taxes.
Correct. The clearest evidence is the new law raising the federal value-added tax, the VAT, from 20 to 22%. They're using consumer spending to fund the war machine.
If we look back at the military, this economic strain is directly reflected in their manpower limits. It seems like they can't replace losses and build new strategic reserves at the same time.
The numbers tell the story. They planned for 17 new divisions in 2025. They only managed to form 4. And this failure to generate reserves leads to really desperate measures on the front line. We have confirmed reports of Russian command sending wounded and poorly disciplined soldiers into offensive operations just to keep the numbers up.
And finally, there's the shadow war inside Russia itself. The SBU, Ukraine Security Service, said they exposed 11 different Russian intelligence networks in 2024.
Right, and these weren't just random spies. These were agents in state-owned companies, even their own intelligence officers. So to maintain control, Russia is relying on 2 parallel security systems. In big cities like Moscow, it's a tech surveillance, state facial recognition, tracking draft dodgers. But out in the countryside, it's the old small town effect, where social pressure and scrutiny are so high that any outsider immediately stands out.
So what's the big picture here? What does this all mean for you, the learner?
The tactical fight around Pokrovsk shows that the front line has been totally redefined by Russia's new BAI doctrine. Small teams, thermal cloaks, advanced drones, they're creating chaos.
And that tactical shift puts this intense, immediate pressure on Ukrainian logistics. It forces a constant, costly tech race. Ukraine and its allies are responding, though, with things like the Octopus drone. They're prioritizing cost-effective counters, which is smart. But I think the key takeaway is domestic. The economic weight of this war is now measurably collapsing the Russian civilian sector. The DIB focus is causing massive price spikes, crippling housing costs, and huge labor shortages. It shows that their military obsession is having these profound and destructive consequences at home.
Which leaves us with a really important thought for the future. The war on the front is all about small teams and thermal cloaks. But the war on the rear hitting refineries, defense production, that's a long-term fight for industrial viability. So think about what Poland's decision to buy 486 HIMARS launchers really tells us. It's a massive long-term investment. It tells us about how Europe is preparing for a prolonged conflict and the kind of robust deterrence they plan to have for years after the fighting finally ends.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Arya, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
Subscribe to Defense Reports. It's your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.